For additional narratives, subscribe to Hani Exposis. We will now commence this task. I had never considered the timbre of my father's voice that could cause my blood to chill, but the phone call on Amanda's 32nd birthday fundamentally altered my perception of the situation. Individuals who are most closely associated with me. The irony was not lost on me that the woman I had spent 8 years protecting was the one I needed, safeguarding against. I am Blake Morrison, and I have been a member of the military for 12 years. Prior to transitioning to private security consulting, I served in the Army Special Forces. I focused on hazard assessment and operations for extracting high-value targets. The abilities that had ensured my survival in Afghanistan and Syria had evolved into my own. In the civilian world, livelihood is ensured by safeguarding executives and their families from extortion, abduction, and other potential threats. I never foresaw that I would require those same abilities to safeguard myself from my own wife. Amanda and I encountered each other at in 2018. A charity gala was held in Dallas. When she was 24, she was striking in an effortless manner, working as an event coordinator for luxury hotels. That is the result of excellent genetics and costly maintenance. 2 was recently out of the service at the age of 31 and was in the process of establishing my security firm from the ground up. She appeared to be impressed by I was interested in the stories I could tell, despite the fact that I kept the darkest ones to myself, and I had a military background. In retrospect, 2 came to the realization that she was not as much attracted to me as she was to the qualities I embodied, such as stability, protection, and the considerable income that resulted from ensuring the safety of wealthy individuals. Our courtship was a flurry of activity. Amanda had this manner of generating a sense of urgency and significance in all situations. Emma was conceived within 6 months. We were married in a modest ceremony that appeared to be hurried. Even at that time, Amanda expressed her desire to establish a family prior to the birth of the child. Nevertheless, to suspect that she was attempting to secure her position before I had the opportunity to reflect on the terms of my agreement. Emma was the focal point of my existence from the instant she took her first breath. 7 years old at present, she had an infectious chuckle that could dissolve any obstacle. A combination of my gray eyes and Amanda's blonde hair. Tension within a space. She continued to insist on bedtime stories every night, typically involving me as daddy bear. Princesses who prioritize their own survival over awaiting suitors. I frequently traveled for business, but I never neglected to attend. For a period exceeding 3 consecutive days, Emma was the reason I had walked away. She was my anchor. From the adrenaline and camaraderie of special operations to construct an enduring and stable entity. Amanda, on the other hand, have grown progressively distant in the past 2 years. Initially, I assigned it to the natural progression of marriage, the manner in which passion transitions into routine. She began exercising more frequently, prioritizing her appearance, and embarking on weekend excursions with her companions. I convinced myself that I was being paranoid, despite the fact that the symptoms were classic. I had developed a skepticism regarding the motivations of all individuals as a result of my employment, and 2 was hesitant to bring that toxicity into my household. Subtle issues initially manifested. Amanda began to inquire about my work schedule more frequently. Aggressively, requesting comprehensive itineraries for each journey. She had matured, increasingly frequent migraines or exhaustion, accompanied by a cold in bed. Our conversations became exclusively functional. Emma's social obligations, domestic expenses, and school events. When she would deflect with accusations that my job was consuming or weeping when I attempted to address the distance between us. I realized that I prioritized the welfare of others over the happiness of my own family. What most disturbed me was the manner in which she had begun to undermine my relationship with Emma. Additionally, there were minor criticisms regarding my excessively strict approach. Paranoid, excessively preoccupied with the most dire of possibilities. When I insisted on security protocols, Farima's school pickup or inquiries regarding her friend's parents' origins. Your hazardous environment is not home to all individuals. World, Blake, she would say, as if the desire to safeguard our daughter was somehow preposterous. So, I observed that Amanda had changed the security settings of her phone. She had previously been unconcerned about leaving it unlocked, but it abruptly necessitated a password. She had begun attending the gym at irregular hours, asserting that she was protecting her fingerprints like classified intelligence. The morning classes were more convenient for her. Her fitness attire was consistently cleaner than it should have been for an individual who purportedly engaged in strenuous fitness regimens. Additionally, there were financial implications, discrepancies. Amanda had consistently managed her domestic accounts, but I supervised all significant transactions. Expenditures. I encountered minor charges for restaurants that I had never visited. Hotels were also included. During periods when she purported to be at home, she was prepared to provide explanations when I inquired about them. Client lunches, Theatron late, spa days with companions, last-minute overnight trips for work conferences. Everything conceivable, everything was able to be defended. However, the collective formation of a pattern caused my operational sensibilities to issue warnings. Frank Morrison, my father, had served as a detective with the Dallas Police Department for 36 years. Before his retirement, he had instilled in me a skepticism about human nature that was akin to that of a police officer, but also with an unwavering moral code regarding loyalty and family. Since my mother's had become even more protective of the remnants of our family unit after his death from cancer 5 years ago, he cherished it. Emma engaged in fishing excursions every other weekend and had maintained cordial relationships with Amanda, despite the fact that he had at times made pointed comments about her expensive tastes. Frank had contacted me twice, in the previous month with a series of apparently innocuous inquiries regarding Amanda's location. Last time, I believed that I observed her vehicle at the new steakhouse in downtown. Tuesday, he mentioned, I assumed that you and your partner were having a date night. Why? I informed him that I had been in Houston on that particular day. He'd observed Amanda exiting a hotel with another individual before abruptly altering the topic. The subsequent call was received shortly thereafter, a fellow he did not recognize. It's likely nothing, he'd said. However, you are aware of my tendency. Toy should have paid more attention to those calls and trusted my intuition that had kept me. The mind functions in a certain way. I instead persuaded myself that Frank was alive after 2 combat deployments, was acting as an overprotective father-in-law, identifying hazards that did not exist. I was preoccupied with overseeing the situation. Security detail for a Fortune 500 CEO whose son had received credibly kidnapping threats. This was ironic in light of the situation that was unfolding in my own backyard. Amanda had proposed the birthday celebration. It was only natural that she desired to celebrate at her parents' residence with her extended family, which had expanded to include her, the family of my brother, the children of her sister, and a number of individuals whom I had never encountered but who were apparently considered close familiar. Amanda's parents resided in a spacious ranch home in an affluent neighborhood. Suburb, the type of location where neighbors maintained their own affairs, and security cameras were aesthetically pleasing, rather than functional. I had spent the afternoon conversing with Amanda's relatives, playing the beautiful spouse, and engaging in small talk, observing Emma blow out the candles on a lavish princess castle cake that likely cost more than the majority of people, appeared to be more animated than she had been in months, laughing out loud at quips that were not funny. There was a weekly grocery budget, particularly amusing. He touched my arm and addressed me as honey with a newfound enthusiasm. Performance behavior I recognized now, intended to reinforce the image of our joyful marriage for the assembled audience. Emma had been. It was a joy to have her peers present, and she enjoyed running around the backyard with the other children. Her dress was grass-stained and soiled. Her visage was chocolate-smeared in a manner that suggested she was having a genuine good time. I have been observing her throughout the day. Looking out the kitchen window, I reflect on how these were the moments that rendered all the travel and tension worthwhile when Myth phone rang. And Frank's voice was not only urgent, but also extremely frightened. I had never heard from him in all the years I had known him. During my mother's illness and during his most challenging cases as a detective, he spoke with such authority that it triggered every operational protocol I had ever learned. When someone you trust advises you to evacuate, you refrain from asking inquiries until you have reached a secure location. I grabbed my daughter and fled. Emma clung to me as she walked out of the house. Despite Amanda's bewildered protestations and the startled expressions of her family, despite her lack of comprehension, she sensed the urgency and inquired whether we were engaging in a game as I say.